everyone, and welcome to the first how-to guide from Checkmate Tutors relating to how to write effective essays during your English for academic purposes or EAP courses and beyond. The learning question for today's lesson therefore is, do I know about and can I apply the Burger method to my essay writing in EAP and other university courses? Yes, you heard it right, the Burger method. This isn't an acronym. The Burger method of essay writing is an easy way to visually represent the components of an essay. So why a burger? The reason is simple. As Aristotle once said, a Greek philosopher and generally clever guy, the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. What this means is that in order to create something, for example an essay, you need to have a number of ingredients, and these ingredients need to be mixed together or sequenced in the case of a burger, in order for the essay to be effective and logical. If you look at this picture of a burger, you will see that each and every component has its place in the sequence, and it is this place that helps contribute to the overall experience of eating a burger. For example, if you didn't have the top bun, your hands would get messy if you tried to pick the burger up. If you didn't have a bottom bun, again your hands would get messy and all of the other ingredients would scatter all over the box that it was contained in. If you don't have the meat, or the corn for all you vegetarians and vegans out there, really not a burger and instead more of a sandwich. So as you can see, each and every part in the picture comes together to make the burger what it is. So getting back to the essay writing, an essay, much like a burger, as a whole is greater than the sum of its parts. As such, I want you to look at this diagram and visualise your essay and this image of a burger blending into one. They occupy the same space. They are one and the same. So the top bun is your title. Your essay must have a title. This gives your essay focus. You the ability to write the essay on a particular topic without losing focus, and the reader the opportunity to see what the topic of your writing is before even starting to move down the page. Think about it. You don't go to McDonald's and say, I want a burger. You are specific. You say, I want a quarter pounder or a cheeseburger. Otherwise, the chances are they will give you the wrong thing. The same is true here. If you don't write the title, your reader will likely be able to see it's an essay, but you might get the wrong type of essay. People that work in McDonald's are very busy. Don't make it easy for them to mess up your order. The same for examiners. Make it quicker for them to award you marks than become prejudiced against your answer because you have been lazy and not included the title. You only have to copy it down once. Tomatoes. The tomatoes represent your introduction, and your introduction must do the following. Restate the title, but in slightly different words, and what you are going to do with the title. Write this without making reference to I or we. Don't use personal or inclusive pronouns. Here is an example essay question and response that you might encounter on an EAP course written using the Burger framework to structure the answer. Please note that this answer serves only as an example of how to use the Burger framework. It is not complete, has not been researched properly, does not include citations, and does not have counter-arguments, and therefore is not suitable for submission should you respond to a similar question. Remember the importance of not plagiarising. Nuclear power generation is dangerous, and investment should be made in other renewable and inherently safer technologies, not building more nuclear infrastructure. How far do you agree with this statement? So in your introduction to this essay, you might write something like, nuclear power on the domestic market has seen 2 catastrophic, fatal accidents, unfortunately far more catastrophic and damaging headlines. However, notwithstanding this paper will argue that despite the widely publicised dangers of nuclear energy, over 10% of the world's energy requirements are met with nuclear energy, and indeed, in the right hands, at the right location and with the right infrastructure, nuclear power can produce low carbon energy needs to the masses safely and for many years. Firstly, it will be discussed how several European member states use nuclear power to generate energy for their respective national grids and do so safely. Secondly, the potential or lack thereof of so-called clean energy sources meeting the consumption demands of a growing population will be analysed. Thirdly, a discussion of the so-called eco-friendly aspects of renewable energy will be investigated. And finally, an overview of the reasons behind both the Chernobyl and Fukushima nuclear disasters will demonstrate how since the Chernobyl incident, technology and safety protocols have advanced to the point that a disaster of this magnitude couldn't occur again. And in the case of Fukushima, valuable lessons were learned about the placement of nuclear reactors on fault lines, thus mitigating risk. As you can see, the first sentence is both the topic sentence and simplification of the title. The next sentence is both the supporting sentence and the stance. And finally, the remaining sentences act both as concluding and linking sentences, as well as justifying the writer's stance on the title. After writing your introduction, you would then move on to the main body of your essay following this pattern. Cheese. This is the first paragraph in which you discuss the first main aspect of your argument as outlined in the justification of your stance section of your introduction. So in this instance, claim. Several European member states use nuclear fission to generate the majority of their energy and to date have no major incidents. Reason. France, for example, had to make energy decisions driven by unstable price fluctuations in the oil market in the mid-1970s, which would enable the French people to regulate their own energy supply. Evidence. Over 70% of France's energy is derived from nuclear fission. France's nuclear power plants collectively generate a surplus which is exported to Italy and Spain, for example, again bolstering the French economy. Evaluation. Despite the fact that the French government has mandated that France should look for alternatives to nuclear power, it has been stated that France cannot meet its energy needs in the short term by derived power from renewable or clean sources at the present time. Furthermore, the fact that France exports a considerable amount of nuclear power to its neighbours would suggest that other nations cannot support their energy demands via other means either. Onions. This is your second paragraph in which you discuss the second main aspect of your argument as outlined in the justification of stance section of your introduction. So in this instance, claim, at the present time, so-called clean or carbon neutral energy is an ideal but not a viable reality for many nations, and a non-judgmental look at the consumption needs and facilities of individual countries need to be established before assuming that migrating from nuclear power generation is a viable idea. Reason. Geothermal energy, as an example, is an excellent source of energy, but only under the right circumstances. Evidence. Even under these circumstances, Iceland and Kenya, the biggest producers of geothermal energy by far, only derive around 50% of their energy from geothermic sources, with the rest made up from traditional non-renewable sources. Evaluation. Thus, it is evident that whilst it is impressive that these nations have managed in a relatively short amount of time to wean themselves off of nuclear power consumption, and now half of their energy consumption is met with renewable means, in the immediate future it is clear that even those best suited to geothermal production of energy, as an example, cannot meet the consumption demands of their population. Furthermore, an analysis of population density and consumption habits must be taken into consideration before deciding whether one nation over another can or cannot adopt renewable energy production whilst decommissioning nuclear. Meat. This is your third paragraph in which you discuss the third main aspect of your argument as outlined in the justification of stance section of your introduction. So in this instance, claim. Whilst it cannot be denied that the Chernobyl and Fukushima incidents were disasters that caused devastation to the lives of many, in the case of the Chernobyl incident, the world has moved on dramatically in many fields including innovation, regulation and indeed politics. Reason. It is for these reasons, and not these reasons alone, that the world should not be dismissive of such a promising and in many cases proven energy production technology. Yes, it has been well documented that the Soviet RBMK reactors were inherently flawed, and that if they were built to better specifications, the Chernobyl disaster would have been far more limited in magnitude. Evidence. However, the key word here is Soviet. The Soviet Union no longer exists, and even after its fall, the remaining RBMK reactors both in the Ukraine and all over the former USSR were made safe and continue to be used. Indeed, there are still several in use today. Evaluation. The fault in both of these cases was the human element and not the technology itself. Cancelling or not expanding a domestic nuclear program due to two admittedly catastrophic incidents is like closing down the whole of London Underground and forcing everyone to walk to work because several people were injured in a derailment 5 years ago. Bottom bun. This is your conclusion paragraph. Much like the bottom bun of a burger, it is really important, and even though it might seem a little bit boring, it must be done properly. Otherwise your burger or essay will fall apart or seem pointless. In your conclusion, you must restate what you have demonstrated and how you have done this. For example, to finish up on nuclear power response, you could write something like this. In this essay, it has been demonstrated how, whilst cleaner energy sources or those with less likelihood to cause damage to the environment if something goes wrong are the ideal for some, at the moment that is literally all they are, an ideal. If you peer behind the sensationalist headlines and look at the facts, you will find that nuclear energy is both safe and relatively clean when considering alternatives and their respective carbon emissions. Yes, incidents can occur, and yes, they can be devastating. However, referring to a disaster from 1986 involving a poorly built reactor in a nation state that was crumbling as justification for not using nuclear power or expanding upon its infrastructure is like refusing to use public transport in case Dick Turpin arrives to rob you on the highway. So that's it for this lesson. It is designed to give you a basic understanding of how to use the visual metaphor of a burger to write your essay, so that when we look more closely at the paragraph structure, you will know that these paragraphs are bolted into this burger structure. Please remember that it is advisable for you to watch all of the other relevant videos in this series before attempting to write any essays. Don't forget to like this video if you've enjoyed it and subscribe to the Checkmate Tutoring channel. Also check out our website checkmatetutors.co.uk. Till next time, goodbye.